Okay, so we are recording. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February Professional Development Facilitator meeting. Thank you for making time to join us this morning. We have some really great information that we want to share that I'm sure you will find useful and be able to take back with your programs. And just as a reminder for those trying to mute everyone because I'm getting some feedback.
Go ahead, Amy. I went ahead and muted them.
Okay, thank you. For those who cannot attend this morning, I'm sharing. I'm recording this so I can share it at a later date. Jamie and I did a practice run on the record yesterday. I was able to view it. But I have not gone through the finishing process of saving it and sharing it. So hopefully that will be as easy as it was to set up the recording yesterday. So hopefully that will be available the first of next week for those who cannot attend. If by chance you did not receive the original link to this meeting, if after this meeting, if you could send me a quick email and just say, please add me to your group PDF list. Anyone that I sent it to individually is not on that list, and I just in an effort to keep everybody informed and in a timely manner, I just want to make sure I have everyone on the list. So if you can just shoot me an email after the meeting's over and say, please add me to the list so that I can make sure that everybody for the next meeting is sent the link on the first time so that there's not a lot of kind of chasing your tail trying to figure out if you're on the list or not. So thank you for that. Then secondly, I have a PD opportunity that I'd like to share. Links has a webinar called Introducing the Tech-Based Coaching Toolkit. It is March 30th from 3 to 4:15 Eastern Time. This will be a webinar that will highlight new resources developed through an Octave funded initiative. So I've also included a QR code down in the corner. So if you would like to scan the QR code, you'll have registration available to you that way. If you're not able to do that and you want to send me an email afterward, I can send you the link through an email as well. Next, we'll move on to some state updates. Megan is here to discuss some HiSET updates. So let me make sure I can unmute Megan.
I am muted. Can anyone hear me?
You're good. Yep, you're good. Okay, great.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Amy. Welcome all. We did change our testing policy, and everybody should have received that. Our policy now states that the state of Indiana for the 30-day policy can be waived, and all the waivers will have to be submitted to me, and I will be the ones to determine whether or not a waiver will be sufficed, so a person does not have to wait 30 days. I am going to share my screen and see if I can't show you the form.
Let me unshare, Megan, so you can share.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can everybody see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can.
You can? Okay. All right. So here's just the form that we are using for the state of Indiana now. You're going to have to put your student's first name, last name, and their ID, and then the date of submission, and then what subject or subjects that you would like to have wavered, and then the reason for the waiver. We're also asking that you submit a TABE test score, and a student must earn a 530 on TABE M, or a TABE D4 or 5, or a TABE A4 or 5, according to the National Reporting System. This was actually recommended by some other colleagues in the field. This was also recommended too that HiSET practice scores should reflect prepared or well prepared. And that HiSET original score also must be submitted, and any other documents. So like if you have someone who is getting ready to have a baby, you're going to have major surgery, please, you can know, it doesn't have to be a doctor's note per se, but just give me the dates of what was taking place. If someone's getting ready to leave the jail, be released from jail, or going from jail to DOC, or if you have a letter of recommendation, it could even be a personal note from an individual. Anything like that would be suffice. And then just sign it and date it, please. And then down here, I will either approve or deny. And if I deny it, I will write. And then but I'm asking for 5 days from submission. That way I have a chance to really look over it thoroughly and make for sure that no one else has any questions or concerns. And that way I'm familiar as with myself with the case by case. And this is also going to be a case by case issue as well. You all will be receiving this document. I'm also going to be talking about this in a statewide call here in a couple of weeks. So I'm probably going to send it out after the statewide call. That way everybody will receive it and everybody realizes what's going on. Does anyone have any questions for me at this time?
If anybody has a question, feel free to unmute yourself so that you can talk with Megan about any concerns. Okay, looks like we don't have any questions.
Sorry,
So-
just one. Is that
I'm
form
sorry.
found online in the Amplify AE?
No, it's not. So if you need it before the statewide call, just send me an email and I will send it to you. I wasn't going to send it out until after the statewide call, because I know on the statewide call we have other individuals who may need it as well. So I was going to try to send it all out at the same time. But if you need it beforehand, just please let me know.
Okay, thank you, Megan.
You're welcome.
Okay, Roy, did you have anything that you would like to add this morning?
Sure, just really quickly, according to, I want to thank everybody for coming to the PDF meeting we had last month. And I will, according to the survey results, that you all want me to cover more of the IETs that we are currently doing. And then also I will focus on some of the WEIs that are using some of the newer measurable skill gains. So look for that in the next statewide webinar, and possibly if we have time, the next time we have a PDF meeting, I will also be open to covering some of that as well. So that is all I have for today. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, great. Thank you, Roy. Next, we'll move to Laura. She has some information regarding the survey that went out on Monday that she'd like to cover some information regarding that. Laura?
Yeah, thank you, Amy. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all here. A lot of you have participated in this survey already, so a huge thank you. Over half of the PDFs we sent it to have completed it. We have information from every single region, at least one respondent, so that's good news. A big shout out to Gretchen Easterday, who is the first one to complete. Way to go, Gretchen. If you aren't familiar with the survey, it did go to just PDFs. We wanted to get their perspective on a lot of different issues that are facing adult ed programs right now. The topic areas, which are listed on the screen, were HiSET test prep, virtual instruction, topic English language learners, recruitment, enrollment ideas, and like Roy said, the IETs, WEIs, and then general instruction. And we will be sharing the results of this survey, hopefully in the next week or so, and then maybe covering a little bit more in depth at the next PDF meeting. So if you have not completed the survey, it will be open through the end of today, and then we will close it and be able to share what you all provided as feedback in these different areas as far as interest in additional professional development. So thank you to everyone who has done this, and hopefully if you haven't had a chance, you can complete it by the end of today, just to make sure that your voice, your program, and your students are represented in what we're putting together for PD. So thank you, and I'll turn it back to Amy.
Thank you. Jerry, would you like to go now, or would you like to wait till the general discussion at the end to wrap things up?
I'll be happy to wrap things up.
Okay, great. So next, we'll move on to our first presenter, Denise Esslinger. Denise joined Wayne Township Adult Education as the HSE supervisor in May of 2020. Before entering the world of adult education, she taught both in elementary and high school levels. Denise presented at the 2021 COAVE and the 2021 IAACE conferences, as well as has presented numerous times during the monthly adult education statewide calls. She's currently working with her team of instructors to help more students earn their diploma by passing the HiSET. Denise is here to share her research and best practices related to the HiSET. So Denise, I will let you take over.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to share some things we've discovered over the past, 7-8 months with the HiSET exam. I did present some things at the state call a couple weeks ago, and then I've added more information to be able to share. So I hope that this will be helpful for everyone. And then, of course, if there's any questions or any more in depth, I'm always available to meet with anybody. So these are just where we're at in reading, writing, and math. I know at the state level, we're looking at our scores, and our scores are lower than they were with task. And we have seen that at the beginning too, but we've made some modifications since we first started HiSET. And so, and we've seen our scores improve over at Wayne. So I'd like to be able to share that with everybody. Next slide, please. So these are some materials I shared earlier, and we stand by them. These are our favorite resources for reading. We bought these from New Readers Press. The language arts one in the blue is probably the strongest one we have for reading. It aligns with the test at a glance. That's how we started with our materials. And we find that going through that language arts book, the blue one, through the reading, we've added that into our reading class, which is something also new in our program this year. In the past, language and reading were combined into one class, and now we have a separate reading class for our students, and it has really improved our reading scores both in TABE and HiSET. So my reading teacher that works at the higher level uses, both of them use this blue book to follow through to get through all the skills that are on the test at a glance. The official HiSET exam guide is also a great resource. This was recommended to me from a program in Tennessee who has been given the HiSET for multiple years, and they find that a lot of the drills as well as the practice tests in that book are very useful. So we are able to use those practice tests in class in that book. The nice thing about the answers, it gives the answers and explains why the answer is correct. So it helps with learning there. Next slide, please. I share some of our updates that we made at the beginning when we looked at qualifying scores for reading. We were at an M3, and when we looked at the data, we noticed that a lot of our M3s, especially right at that cusp, that 501, 502, were struggling with the HiSET exam. So we increased our TABE qualifying scores to M4 and D3, and that has really changed. We find that our students are more prepared at that level. So that is something that we have in our classroom. And then so students who may have an M3 reading score, but higher scores in math and language will then join one of our reading classes to improve their reading TABE score. Also with Essential Education, we love that program, and they do have HiSET Academy. So when students come in at that E or lower M level, we do enroll them in TABE Academy to help them. But once students reach that middle M level and higher, we put them in the HiSET Academy. HiSET Academy has great learning plans that can be individualized with a self-assessment. And then also there's practice tests that are free. And we have found that when students take those practice tests, and we try to have them take it in our testing center environment so that it can be like when taking the HiSET exam, that they're a great indicator that students will pass that reading exam. I also have a teacher who's created vocabulary flashcards in Quizlet. She did them for reading. We also have science and social studies, and they're available at Quizlet. And you'll see if you look at WTAE Bootcamp and search for them, but all of those cards are available. Each area has the term as well as a visual. So please feel free to explore Quizlet and use those if you can find that that's useful. We have found science and social studies. Sometimes it's hard to integrate that into our daily lessons. So it's a great resource for the students. And then, and I can look at, we can share my screen later and look at that, but we have our HiSET portal, which has been created by our teachers and staff with different lessons and videos. And this helps students not only prepare for the HiSET test, but we also link it to some of those practice tests that are available online that students can use. So the students that enroll, especially if they're not able to make it to class regularly before attending the boot camp and the testing, they can work on that HiSET portal. So, and again, I can go ahead and share that a little bit later. Next slide, please. This is how the topics that are covered in our reading classes. And so I just put those and divide them into 3 areas for the test at a glance. And you'll see vocabulary is probably the most difficult. It's just we have a lot of our students, especially with our English language learners, they're able to read the passages well, but it's the vocabulary that we have to expose our students to. I hear that from my students when they come back from taking even a TABE test. I could read it all, but there were words I didn't understand because the vocabulary and even context clues are tough because they don't understand the context clues. So that's something we're looking at, is to expanding that vocabulary and embedding it more into our classroom instruction as well as our boot camp instruction. And then I know these areas here, which I said are taught in our reading classes, and then they're also taught as a much quicker pace in our boot camp, because for boot camp instruction, before students would take the reading exam, they get about 2 hours of instruction. So this is other topics that are covered through our boot camp. And all these topics are aligned well in this book here. So that's what we use to cover all these areas, R1. Next slide, please. And then this is just something I repeated with from the state call, but this is from one of our instructors who's been teaching adult ed for over a decade. And he just talks about one part is really what that graphic here is used to help students understand the fiction portion of the test. We also realize that more of the test in reading is nonfiction. And again, that comes back to, we've noticed that vocabulary and prior knowledge, but we do spend a lot of time on nonfiction. And then one thing we found more is at the beginning of HiSET, we would have students take those practice tests that we'd have from different resources and then have more do it independently to simulate a testing atmosphere, but then found it's actually better to use those practice test questions, break them apart, discuss them, and explain exactly what is being asked of them, because that is another thing the students will mention is, well, I know how to do it, I just don't understand what the question is asking. So we're just trying to help break those questions down and make them easier to understand so the students can reflect their knowledge and the skill level they have. Next slide, please. And then this is writing. I'm actually really proud of my team. Our writing essay scores were low at the beginning when we first started HiSET. We were getting more 1s than we were surprised, because in task we didn't see that, and then 2s. So we really dove in, looked at the test at a glance again to see what we were missing. And these 4 materials have been excellent resources. The one in the middle is probably the favorite one we have, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But these resources show the different types of argumentative articles that the students can read and break it down into the different forms. We knew we were missing a piece, and that's the piece where you're to add your personal experience and reflection. That was something that was not wanted in task. And once we added that piece in and taught it back with the students and gave them more of a format, we have seen that our essay scores have increased to 3s and 4s, and we even have some occasional 5s recently. So, next slide, please. And this is that reading book. I know it might be hard to see. I just wanted to show a little bit of what you can find in this writing book. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So in this book, and you'll see the essay prompts that are available in this book. And what I like about it is because a lot of these topics are relevant to what's going on right now, and the students can relate to it, because we all know that when students can relate to what they're reading and writing about, it becomes an easier process for them. So one that we use and practice in our writing classes is tattoos, whether to ink or not to ink. So this is one lesson that's been taught, especially. And we've seen both sides. You know, we have students that do have tattoos, and they explain, you know, how the personal. I read an essay from a student just last week about why she had her tattoos, because they reflect part of her personal journey, and really put that piece in there. It was an excellent piece. And then I've seen the opposite side as well. So I really do like how you can look at these two articles. You have practice prompts, and then it does have rubrics in the back, as well as exemplars, so that students can see what does a good essay look like. Again, vaccination has been another topic that has been used well in classes, gets a good discussion going. And I think the other one that works really well is the studying with music, because we have some, we kind of see that as our, and just from like the younger students say, yes, I need to study with music. And sometimes the older students like it quiet. So not only are we getting good debates in class going on to help with the writing, but then it's helping prepare the students for the argumentative essays. And then also what we've changed to, and this is more at that E level, our lower language classes are introducing argumentative writing without the research essay part. So they're starting to write argumentative essays. The first one that we worked on when we got back from Christmas break is in-person instruction, or do you prefer online instruction? So again, got the students going. So we're trying to get even students that are coming in at that E level learning what the format for an argumentative essay is, so that when they get to the higher level and when they get to high set, it's not something brand new to them. Next slide, please. This is a format that I found from another presentation that was at COABE previously, and it just gives a format for the writing essay with the questions. Does Sam remember the essay organization code? So we do use this in our boot camp instruction. It does help the students a lot, especially if they're afraid of writing. They just don't know where to start. How am I supposed to start? What am I supposed to say? So we're trying to help give the students a format to follow to help make the essay flow and be organized. That was one area we noticed that the organization was a little off at the beginning, and now that we've added this piece, we found that our organization percentages have increased as well, which has helped with our essay scores. Excuse me. So my teachers go over this, both at boot camp. Some teachers also use that as the instruction tool in class. Next slide, please. And then this, I showed this before. This is a great resource, this website. It shows the steps to the argumentative essay, which goes with the previous slide, but there's also 3 or 4 more videos on this website where it shows teaching different essay prompts. So they have 2 or 3 different prompts, and you can watch the teaching in action and how the students can either use it as an independent tool or it can be used as a teaching tool. So this is a great website here, and it does have some products available for purchase. So next slide. And then I also got this from another program. Again, back to my program in Tennessee that I met. This is how they break down their writing for their students, and they have strong writing scores as well. So if a student or if a teacher is not comfortable with the questions in the box format, this is another way that students can write with a 5-paragraph model, and it just talks about how you state your belief and your support, and then with each article too. This is more of, this one here is a 5-paragraph model. We know sometimes when we say 5 paragraphs, our students get scared and think that's an awful lot to write. So again, it just goes with probably teaching preference and also what is best for your students. But this is another great format that has been used by my teachers and still gets nice passing scores at the essay. Next slide, please. And then what we find even first is just that planning time, because the students are given, the writing test is 120 minutes. They have the essay and the multiple choice, and just trying to figure out how to organize their time and not get nervous or spend too much time on the essay or not enough time. So this is what one of my teachers has put together as what she recommends to the students when they're taking the HiSET exam. And I know that the writing prompt is offered first, and we really encourage our students to do the essay first, not to skip over and go to the multiple choice. That's been recommended by 2 other state programs that when we met in Iowa and Tennessee, that they ask their students to write the essay first. And that's different than task because the essay was offered last in task. So this is just how we can help with the student planning time here. And again, we found that writing the essay first has improved their scores. Next slide, please. And this is another link that I'm willing to share. This is one of my teachers teaching in action for her writing during a boot camp. I just recorded this from a couple weeks ago, but she said she's more than willing, and I can share the link. But this is just Diane teaching the essay to our students before they take that exam during one of our boot camps. So I can make this available if anybody's interested in that. Next slide. And then we'll move on to math. I know our math scores started out a little low, but have improved greatly. We're still trying to, full transparency, get that algebraic expression, algebraic concepts portion better. That's the one area that we found is the when our students don't pass that they're struggling the most in. So we are diving more into that data. But these are the resources that we use. Again, the green New Readers Press, and that New Readers Press has science and social studies as well. So we found that it's a great set. And then the other 2 materials I actually purchased when I was at IAACE. So we found that HiSET math has some great practice questions in there, and then helping with the functions. We love all these resources. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So again, these are some updates that we made that we found after working through the HiSET. And we have wonderful math teachers that work at the E to M2 level. And I like to brag about them because they can get those students a gain in a really minimum amount of time. And a lot of times that gets them to that M3 or M4. Then you're looking at boot camp and ready to go, but then you're missing kind of those higher math concepts. So if a student gets that qualifying score and isn't going to go to boot camp or test for a couple of weeks, we like to enroll them in our advanced math class, because then that gives them 2 to 3 weeks of instruction, talking more about algebra, geometry, and that's helped a lot too, because it just gives them more exposure. Also too, in those math classes, even at that E and M level, we're putting students in HiSET Academy. We just make sure though that the students take that self-assessment and not the first practice test, because if they're at that lower level math, just still learning, their multiplication facts, taking that practice test is very overwhelming and scary. But if you take the self-assessment, then Essential Ed puts a plan together for the level the students are at. We talked about the calculator too. Some of our students just don't know how to use the calculator. And since they're allowed to use it the whole time, we have a video that's shown, and then we just make sure the students are able and show how they can use that calculator function and to help them with their test. And then finally, we've did some updates, and that calculator video is in our HiSET portal. So that has helped with math. Next slide, please. And then this is also something that was shared at the state call, but my teachers talk about how, making those concepts, instead of being just a problem that seems like why you're just filling it, putting in numbers, how to make the problems relative to real life. So she tries to explain how to do the different proportions and the functions using different examples that the students can relate to, especially with wages and then other ideas. So she likes to break down the problem, and I've watched my math teachers in action, and it's really is breaking every problem down step by step by step. A student came back after taking the HiSET exam and said, yep, everything that you taught me was on there, but the way it was worded, it was hard to understand. So they knew what to do, but then kind of froze up because of the way the question was asked. So that's just something that we found to make sure we give students those tools of understanding exactly what the test is asking. So again, practice test questions are essential to help students passing this exam. Next slide, please. And these are just some things that my instructor, she has, especially when she does her boot camp, she has a digital slideshow. And so I took a few pieces from her slideshow of what she uses. Obviously, order of operations is huge. I think Adam Springwater has mentioned that, as well as percents and decimals and fractions. So with her order of operations, she looks at it as a 4-step process. They go over practice questions, and then she talks them through step by step. And then again, you have your guided practice, and then some independent practice. And then also she's added this fractions cheat sheet. These are just also items that the students have printed out that they can use. Math is given when we have our boot camp. Math is always the last day. So these slides, and it can be copied and given to students on day 1 so that they can use that to study until the math test too and math instruction. Next slide, please. She also talks about percent proportions. So again, these are just, I thought I would share some of the tools that we use when we're helping the students prepare for the HiSET exam. So a lot of math here. I'm not going to lie. English is more of my, and language is more of my forte. So math is a little more foreign to me, but the instructors have it right down there to help the students understand. So we have percent proportions. Next slide, please. Also, very big on converting fractions, decimals, and percents. That just helps the students understand what is needed. And a lot of times if they can solve it one way, but then just to be able to convert it into the right form being asked by the test. So this is also given to students to help them prepare. Next slide. And then our favorite, the quadratic equations. We have last test, I know one of the students said that they had a lot of quadratics on their form, came back. So I've been watching this being taught in action too. One of my satellites was working, locations was working on quadratics this week. So just one of those other areas, again, straight from the test at a glance where we got that from, and just trying to meet the needs of our students and help them understand these higher level math skills. Next slide, please. And then again, these free practice tests are amazing. In addition to what you have from the materials I showed earlier, because all the books that we use have practice tests, and these that are offered online. So we can use these, and we're really hoping they release another free practice test. They said that it was possible. So we're hoping for the next one just to have more, just more exposure again to test questions. Even coming back from my experience in elementary and high school, you'd watch that I-STEP exam and you knew the students knew how to do it, but the way it was worded, and it was just so, it's frustrating as a teacher, and you don't want to try to trick the students. So we're just trying to help alleviate that test anxiety. Next slide, please. Oh, and again, I just wanted to do the shout out to my teachers. This information and diving into, I have been able to give my teachers all the resources, but they're the ones that are diving into it, breaking it apart, finding the best lessons. So I wanted to shout out that our scores and our success of our students is due to the hard work of our teachers. And like I said, it's still ongoing. We're trying to figure out how to make it even better to help more and more of our students pass. Next slide, please. And then I just wanted to bring there's some numbers I dove into, and I was curious to see if other programs were seeing some of the same results. Talked to Amy a little bit about this the other day when we met, but we're looking at our ELL students and that reading exam. There's a big discrepancy in scores, and we know fluency, vocabulary, and additional time, but just some numbers from our program, and I was curious if other programs were seeing the same thing, but we're finding that our English language learners are the ones that are not passing the test or are getting just that minimum score. And what we're finding even more interesting is that you look at the 82% of students who haven't passed the reading exam are ELL learners, but or at the bottom one, 79%, they've passed every other test. So we're seeing students getting scores of 13, 14, 15, 16 in science, social studies, reading, math. They're passing, typing the essay, getting a 3, but somehow that reading score is still low. So it's just something that I would love if others programs were seeing the same thing, and if they had some helpful hints on our end, because that's the area that we're really diving into right now, is to helping, because that's where we're seeing the biggest discrepancy in our scores. So I thought I would just bring that to attention and maybe have a discussion, and if anybody has anything that they could share my way, I would love to hear about that. So, and there's my contact information. And I think that's it. When I have any questions or comments, so.
Great, Denise. That was a wonderful presentation, and I appreciate you doing sort of a deep dive and covering the information again for our programs. I think that you know, we'll retouch on that that reading score again, and kind of maybe do a more deep dive on that as well, because it is a very interesting way that is playing out. So, and it's worth investigating. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions before we move on?
Amy, I think there was someone that wanted to see the writing prompt slide again.
Okay. Get that back up. That was at the beginning, wasn't it, Denise?
Yeah, there's that one, and then yeah.
Is this the one? I'm not sure.
It's either that one or the one after.
It said, I cannot see the writing prompt acronym. So,
Oh,
Okay, so that would be this one. Yeah.
yes.
Okay, great. Anything else before we move forward with Jamie? We have Jamie Gribbins here to present as well today, so I want to make sure we have plenty of time for her presentation as well. Okay, get back to where we were. Okay, Jamie. Jamie Gribbins is here with us also this morning. Jamie attended the University of Southern Indiana, where she received her master's in business administration, Bachelor of Science in English Literature, and a minor in education. After graduating in 2014, Jamie pursued her passion for teaching. She's taught about every level of students before finding her love for teaching adults. Jamie is currently the Assistant Director for Vincennes University Adult Education, where she prides herself on helping make a difference. Her favorite thing to tell her students is, "It is my goal to help you achieve your goal." So Jamie is here to share her Google Drive, their story, how they came to develop their Google Drive. So Jamie, I will let you take it away. So let me unshare my screen so that you can share yours.
Okay.
I think you should be able to share.
Great introduction. Okay. Let me know when you guys can see the beginning of my presentation.
Yes.
Okay, good deal. So a little bit of background. I know Amy just introduced me really well. But I have actually been with adult education for a very long time. I started in 2011. So while I was in college, I started as a teacher's aide in an adult ed classroom. Slowly over time, I ended up being the go-to for any minor thing that needed to be done. So the director would call me and say, hey, can you go put tape on these computers? Can you sit and register students for testing? So I kind of became the go-to person for anything adult ed. And this is important to know because I want to talk about how Vincennes University got to the point where we needed better communication. So I was kind of here and there with a lot of different roles in adult ed. I graduated, I started teaching at the high school level at North High School in Evansville, and I would do a Tuesday night class for adult ed. And then every other Thursday, I hosted an orientation for Evansville. Well, Lauren and I got to be very good friends. We met obviously whenever she was Lauren Bell, our director now. We met when she was just in the classroom. She helped me learn a lot. And over time, I saw Lauren continue to do great things in adult ed, and I was always interested. Well, as soon as she kind of got a little more stake in the game, I think she was acting as an Evansville lead. She told me, hey, I'd like for you to come on as a teacher in Evansville for 28 hours a week, which that's kind of our full time, if you will. So I left the high school and I came on at Vincennes University as an adult ed teacher in 2016. In 2017, Lauren became our director. And at that time, she asked me, she said, hey, Jamie, a lot's kind of going on. We have a PDF position that the state wants us to write for. Would you be interested in being the AB adult basic education representation for our program? Because we have Gretchen Easterday, who's going to apply to be the ESL. I said, absolutely. So at this time, I had been with adult ed in different positions for about 5 to 6 years, you guys. And I'm filling out my application, and I had to go to Lauren and ask her. I was like, Lauren, what's a table 4? And I was like, what's my table 4 percentage? I don't know. And she was like, this is the problem. We don't have good communication within staff. If staff members don't know what a table 4 is, how can they be accountable of their data, their numbers? Well, luckily the table 4 kind of happens organically. So when we pulled my table 4, it was high. And I joined to be a PDF, which kind of brought us to when Lauren took over in 2017, the number one priority was staff communication. We knew something was going on. At the time, we were in 3 different regions. Now we have 2 regions, but at the time, 3 different regions, communications not good. And it was very hard for us to kind of teach staff and to be available to every person when some people are over a 3 to 4 hour drive away. So the first thing Lauren did was, like I said, with help from the PDFs, and I was the PDF at the time, she was like, we need help with staff communication. So we got together, we brainstormed, and the first thing we thought of is lead instructors. So we have lead instructors in a couple different areas. We have an IOO lead instructor now, an Evansville lead instructor, an ESL lead instructor, a rural 7 and 8 lead at the time, and then a rural 11 lead. So this allowed staff members to have someone close enough to them that if they needed help, they could ask. So that was really important that we established someone for people to go to, or if they needed help, someone to contact and have them go and sit down with them and teach them. You know, at first it was us going and teaching staff what a table 4 was, what it looked like, how we were evaluated by the state because we had no idea. We all knew to post test. We just didn't know why it was important to post test. And so understanding that really allows teachers to take accountability of what's happening in their classroom. The second thing we did is we started an in-person bi-yearly required professional development. This allowed all staff to get together, for us to collaborate, for us to push out the information that was given to us, and a kind of a time to just celebrate our staff as a whole. I'm going to go back to one slide. You can see this picture is the first one we were able to do after COVID. It was last summer. So we were very excited to be able to get the whole staff together last summer for the first time, because we got very used to those bi-yearly professional developments and we missed seeing each other. So there's a picture of our great staff. The third thing is, at the time, I wanted to create a Google Drive, but our staff was not where we needed to be with technology. And so a couple of our staff members, our instructors, felt really insecure as far as getting a Google account, jumping into that Google Drive. So I created a Live Binder. It's a file system that's easy to get to. I wasn't crazy about it, but it was an easy way for staff to be able to access documents. This eventually became our shared Google Drive that I'm going to talk to you guys about in a second. We did employee Facebook groups and we did monthly newsletters. So we were doing everything we possibly could. Lauren was mailing out newsletters that she typed up each month. And we were doing everything we could to make sure our communication was as good as possible. So we are a little bit thankful for COVID because it kicked us out of our comfort zone. So even though we had that great communication, we were still traveling quite a bit to get in contact with our leads, for our leads to get in contact with our teachers. So we're in a way very thankful for COVID because it really did kick us out of our comfort zone. And we were at the point that staff needed to learn how to keep up with technology. They needed to learn how to be able to get on a Zoom meeting because that was the only way that we could keep our staff working at the time. So we started weekly virtual Zoom meetings, and it was a great way for everyone to see each other. We enjoyed it. We had fun. We did different activities, and we kind of assigned different, weekly tasks to staff members through Zoom. Our staff got so comfortable with Zoom that we were able to completely host a virtual professional development with Craig Boykin. If you guys are unsure who Craig Boykin is, he is amazing. He wrote a book called From GED to PhD, and he wrote a couple other books kind of about teaching to at-risk students. And he was a great resource to our staff. And so we got all these great opportunities because we got comfortable with technology and able to do those Zooms. Our monthly mail newsletter turned into monthly recorded videos emailed out to staff, which was great. And really, it ultimately allowed us to virtually teach staff how to operate Google Drive, which is what I'm going to show you next. So I do know a lot of PDFs are familiar with a shared Google Drive. I want to say in late 2018, maybe early 2019, when we went to a PDF meeting in Indy, another group presented on their shared drive, which I thought was really cool. And at one point we were about to start a PDF shared drive. So I do know a lot of people are familiar with shared drive. So I'm going to kind of explain what it is and how ours is set up. So a shared Google Drive is a shared space where teams can easily store, search, and access their files anywhere from any device. Unlike files in my drive, files in a shared drive belong to the team instead of an individual. So one of my favorite things about a shared Google Drive is that staff members can edit and add files. So before, when we had the live binder, if there was a mistake, someone would have to contact me. I would have to go change the little mistake and re-upload it, where now our staff can, fix those mistakes they see. If they have a great resource, they're able to add it themselves. If they, see that something's wrong or they want to update something, they can edit it themselves. That's my favorite thing about the shared drive. The other thing is kind of like mentioned before, teams can access their files anywhere. I have to travel a lot. I know Lauren kind of has to travel a little bit. Sometimes she's at Gibson, sometimes she's at Vincent, sometimes she's in Evansville, and I'm the same way. So it's kind of nice that if someone messages me, if they're teaching a night class and I'm at home with my family possibly, and says, hey, I need an updated registration, where can I get one? I can send it directly to them from my phone without having to be behind my computer or anywhere. So virtually you can access this anywhere, which makes it great as well. Okay, so talking a little bit about what is in our shared drive. So these are all of our folders in our shared drives. We have an adult ed forms. That is where our registrations are at, our learning plans, our TABE documents, our attendance sheets, anything that pertains to the student in the classroom, you can usually find under the AE forms. We have an AE marketing. That's where we have our graduation photos. We have our promo video, some flyers that teachers can easily print out. Our COVID resources is kind of where we go to for a guideline if something would happen, or if there was a COVID outbreak in our classes, step-by-step to tell instructors how to work through that. Our educational resources would probably be my favorite folder, because that is where teachers can upload and share their resources they have found or what they're using in their classrooms. We have an ESL folder that Gretchen operates for our ESL team, a HiSET folder that has everything from practice tests to our HiSET schedule to how to get accommodations, kind of everything HiSET's in there. IAACE folder, IETWEI, that way if instructor is talking to a student that's interested in joining an IET or WEI of ours, they can kind of go through and see what the curriculum looks like and see, okay, this is how long the process is. These are the things you need. So that's a great resource for our teachers as well. We have an enters one where I update anything kind of Matt sends, an IOO portal or folder that Hannah, our IOO lead, updates. Our newsletter in table 4 where we put our most updated newsletters, and I update staff's table 4 numbers each month on that. Professional development, so anything that we do that maybe staff wasn't able to make it to, or if Amy shares something that we think is great, we'll put it in that PD folder. Soft skills, Indiana Career Explorer, staff bios. That way, if a student is switching from our Gibson class to our Evansville class, possibly, a teacher could print off the new teacher's staff bio and kind of show the student, hey, this is going to be your teacher. That allows our students to be more comfortable going in if they have an idea of what their teacher looks like, who they are. A place where we put our success stories, table 11 and 12 resources, and VU documents is anything that our staff needs as far as Vincent's University, like required days off by VU. So that is how we have it organized. I am going to share so you guys can kind of see inside our shared drive. And I'm going to go to the educational resources because, like I said, that is my favorite. This is where staff is able to upload the great things that they are using in their classroom. So if I go to math, Alex, one of our main instructors in Evansville, that is an awesome instructor. She loves to make her own packets. So she uploads these packets that she makes for other instructors to be able to use. I know recently Vic Mary, one of our teachers, uploaded some of the score boosts. So then if students need to look at it virtually, they're able to. And really, we just have a lot of great resources that teachers are able to get to quickly and easily instead of having to reinvent the wheel. So we have all the books, obviously, in the classroom as well, but this is a great way. Level M reading, that's one of our resources. We just developed this shared drive, I want to say probably fall of last year. So we are still adding to it, making sure it is the way we want it to be. Here's a look at our HiSET folder. Here's our HiSET testing schedule, kind of all the HiSET documents. Then, you know, our HSC vouchers that we can use. And really this like allows our staff to have access to anything that we talk about at the drop of a hat, where they're not Google or, you know, searching through their email to find what document they want to see. Here's a review of how we do our table 4 numbers. So I have our teachers, and each month they can kind of see number of students, number of HSCs, and enter us table 4%. I think it's important, Lauren and I talked about this, we think it's important for teachers to see each other's table 4 numbers, because then if someone is performing really high with around the same number of students, then that teacher can reach out to the other teacher and say, hey, I noticed you have around the same number of students as me. Your table 4 seems to be a lot higher. I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. What can I do to help with my students post-testing and getting those gains? So that is kind of what I have as far as a shared drive. Is there any questions that anyone has? I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. Anything? No. Okay, well, thank you guys for letting me present on this. If you have any questions, my contact info Amy has shared. Even if it's how to get a Google Drive up and started, it's pretty easy. I'm happy to walk you through it, but it just does take time to get it exactly how you want. We're still working to add more resources on it.
Denise, or Jamie, I just had one question related to the drive. Do your teachers download some of those packets and email it to your students so that if they have the ability to print off you know, let's say they're home with COVID or a family member with COVID, do they ever create that kind of a distance pattern for their students, a distance learning pattern?
Yes, they do. Actually, you can download a Google Drive document on your phone or app on your phones. And so then it makes it really visually easy to see. So sometimes our teachers will go ahead and download that Drive app, and then they can screenshot a picture of a worksheet and send it to a student, where then the student wouldn't necessarily need to have Wi-Fi. And the student would then be able to kind of work on a separate sheet of paper based off looking on their phones. So that's something I know one of our teachers do, because their student doesn't have a lot of technology, but they're able to get a photo on their phone. And so then he can kind of work through on a separate sheet of paper. So it makes it very easy for us to do distance ed. It makes it very easy for, like I said, if a night teacher contacts me at night and says, oh my goodness, I have an orientation, for some reason I misplaced where I put the attendance policy, can you send it to me? And I can share it very easily, or I can say, go to the shared drive. It should be under AE documents. So it really makes it easy for everything to be at one place, so everyone knows exactly where to go.
Great.
Did have a question from Rob Moore.
Oh, yeah, Rob's got something. Thanks.
Yes,
Rob.
and my question would be, so with everybody accessing that Google Drive and all those documents, how do you prevent someone from doing an oopsie, I deleted it, sorry, I thought I was downloading, but I deleted it instead? What safeguards do you have in place for that?
So we kind of put people on a little bit of a trial. If someone's new to Google Drive and they're not sure how it works, we don't give them editing access at first. We just kind of, you know, have them be able to download the documents. And then once they get a little bit more comfortable, you know, I'll kind of do a Zoom meeting with them. I'll show them how it works. Once they become a little bit more comfortable, then I'll change it so then they're able to edit. The good thing is with Google Drive, you can go to file and then revision history, and I can restore it in 2 seconds. So if it does happen, it doesn't happen often, because like I said, we kind of train our staff to have a good idea of how to use it. But if it does, it can be easily changed with revision history. I don't like to go do that because I don't, you know, go through and make sure that nothing's ever been changed. But for the most part, if it teacher does accidentally mess it up, they usually message me and they're like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what I did, I messed it up, can you fix it? And then I'll go in, and usually it's just a couple clicks. So yeah.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments for Jamie before we kind of open the floor to some general discussion and questions or comments just in general? Okay, Jamie, thank you very much. Denise, also thank you both very much for being willing to share with us and take the time to prepare such an in-depth presentation. I really appreciate it, and I know the programs will be able to take all this great information and use it to their advantage. So.
I'm sorry, there is one question in the chat. Is there any legal risk to us getting materials into our Google Drives? This is from Carol.
Oh, mm-hmm.
I kind of, I think at any time, anything has a risk of being hacked, if you will. I never allow student personal information to be on our Google Drive. Ours is more of kind of, like I said, resources for learning and everything. So if it would be hacked, there's not a single thing in there that I would be nervous about, if you will, but I would never allow my staff to like email or post personal student information besides like the basic success story. But as far as like birth dates, socials, any of that stuff, I don't think it needs to be on Google Drive. So far, we've never had an issue with anything being as far as it being safe or not safe. But we are careful about what we post. We make sure that there's no personal information out there.
Jamie, I want to add something there. I kind of equate it to like back in the old fashioned classroom where you were reading a book with a group and somebody needs a copy of a couple of the pages and you go make a copy for them. Of course, you can be legally bound by that action, but you know, what else are you going to do? I think that, you know, unless you just make a big production of it, I think that places are fine with, you know, people using their materials. I really do.
Amy, there was another comment in the chat too from Polly. It says, if you haven't looked at S'more's newsletter, S'more is amazing. It says s'more.com. So that's another, I guess, another tool that you people can use as well for other documents. Anyway.
Great, thank you. Kim, did you have something also?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Google Drive. We implement a Google Drive at Wayne Township, and it's really, really useful. I have to echo everything that was said about how wonderful it is for your team. As far as the legality of materials and things, a lot of what we keep is teacher-created materials on there. But we do have some like teacher pay teacher, those types of things. And a lot of those materials allow you to use them within the classroom setting. So just being really careful with what you're putting on there. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing as if you're making copies of a textbook. Obviously, that's against what you should be doing. Just some input. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for Lauren or Jamie or Denise at this point? Okay, so I'd like to open it up to anyone that has any concerns or questions that they would like to share at this point, something that they'd like to discuss that they or have discussed at some future meeting that they'd like to bring up as well. If it maybe didn't make it onto Laura and I's survey, if it can be, feel free to bring that up as well. Before we move on to Jerry, is there anyone that has anything that they would like to bring up? Amy, go ahead.
Amy Engel.
Yes.
One of my teachers asked to ask in the language arts section, the organization of ideas. She feels like she's not sure where to find resources for the organization of ideas category. We have that one writing book that you showed earlier in Denise's presentation from New Readers Press. Is that organization of ideas? Is it located in that book?
Denise, that might be something best answered by you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking. I'm sorry.
Nope, not a problem. Not a problem.
I know we used a little bit of that from Unit 5 in that New Readers Press book. Also, that the big high set exam book that was from ETS has some organization of ideas. And then I don't have the copies with me right now, but some of those, there's a score boost high set. It's a little, one of those little paper packets, and one is specific to the organization of ideas on the essay. And that's where we get a lot of our information as well. Yeah, so it's one of those blue thin score boost high sets.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to bring up at this point? Before we move on to Jerry to wrap us up for the day. Joyce. Oh, Joyce, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Is that better?
Thank you, yes.
Yes. I had a question for Megan, and this may have already been asked, about the HiSET testing process itself. I have a student that once has passed all parts except for math, and wants to take, or wants to, we want to find out if he can take just that one section remotely and just go through the same procedure, or how that works since he started it in person. I couldn't find anything that on the website that said how to handle that, or if we can even do it.
I will have to verify, but my gut says that yes, you can do it. He would just have to go through HiSET Proctor U to set up the math remotely, and there will be an extra charge for that. So I, since he's not going to be taking a full battery, obviously he won't be, but there will be an extra charge for that. And I know for the full battery, it's an extra, $80. I'm not, I don't have it here in front of me. So I don't know if it would be an extra $80 just for that one test, but I will definitely look into that for you and I'll get back with you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And Joyce, if you don't mind, will you please send me your email in the chat in case I don't have it already?
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, we've had a couple of requests for the slide deck, and that should not be a problem as well. Again, if you were not on that original group email with the link to this meeting, please be sure to send me an email asking to be added to that list so that when we do send out hopefully the video as well as the slide deck, that you will be included in that group email. Okay. Any other questions before we let Jerry bring us to the finish line? Most of us have another meeting coming up that Megan arranged, so we don't want to be late for that. So.
Hi, Amy.
Yes.
It's Gloria Hubbock.
Yes, go right ahead, Gloria.
I just wanted to say thanks for the information that was presented this morning on the ELL population, and not that it's, we'd like to obviously see better things coming out of those kind of studies, but I think that's really important for the ELL teachers to see that, and for the transition teachers, and maybe even we do more of that kind of study to see how much, where they're having the major issues in passing the HiSET once they leave the ELL program. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that is something that I think is very worthwhile, trying to figure out where that disconnect happens with the student as they transition. And so, yes, that is something that we do plan to have some more discussions on. So thank you, Gloria. Okay, anyone else? Joyce, did you have another question, or is that just from before?
No, I don't have another. Is my hand up?
Yeah, it's still up, and I just wanted to make sure that you hadn't, turned it off and turned it back on with another request or question.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Is it down now?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I just wanted to make
my
sure
little hash bar is missing.
That is not a problem. I just wanted to make sure I didn't skip over you if you had something else you wanted to bring up. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I will turn it over to Jerry to finish us up.
Well, thank you very much, Amy, and welcome everyone. It's so good to see all of you, either your names or your faces on Teams this morning. And a special shout out to a couple veterans. We heard from Gloria Hubbock. who is now with Central 9 as the PDF, the longtime former Director of Adult Education at Wayne Township, and to Rob Moore there at Broadview Learning Center. I usually introduce myself anymore as just simply Jerry, the old man of adult education. But welcome everyone, and thank you so much for attending this morning. Particularly glorious comments about the ELL. I want to make a couple comments about this. One of the things that we did last week in updating the HSC policy was that we now allow students to test either in English and or Spanish. They can mix and match, take the Spanish reading test and test all the others in English to receive an HSC. In addition to Megan's comments about the waiver for the 30-day wait to retest. I thought that was very important for us to do, particularly in the light of what I'm going to give you in just a few minutes, some numbers that are coming through this year as far as programming is concerned. So I hope that is helpful. You can now mix and match. A student can take some of the tests in English and some of the tests in Spanish to earn an HSC. We thought, again, that was important because of the HiSET states, and there are about 26 that use HiSET plus territories. All but 6 allow the mixing and matching of English and Spanish. And the states around us, Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan that use HiSET, they allow the mixing and matching of English and Spanish to earn an HSC. So I hope that is another option available in your toolbox. As far as we looking at some numbers here and how we're doing this program year, it's almost springtime. Gosh, well, spring, come on, spring. But we have served to date, as of this morning, 13,957 students in adult education statewide, just under 14,000. A year ago, same time, we had only served 11,404, about 11,500. So that is a 22% increase in our, and in large part, that increase is due to more ELL students coming to our program or coming back to our programs as a result of COVID. So great job there. I just commend everyone on that increase in our enrollment. Our measurable skill gains are up as well from the same time a year ago. Currently, we're at 54.89, almost 55%. A year ago, same time, we were at 53.8%. So that is about a percentage point increase, so good job there. Our HSEs are down, and I attribute that largely to the switch in test. As you all know, TASC is no longer given anywhere across the country. They got out of the business of HSE testing. Currently, we are at 1,798. A year ago, same time, we were at 2,214. There's about a 400 difference there, or a 19% decrease. So we want to increase our HSEs, and I think particularly the presentation that Denise gave earlier this morning will help us along that way. Our HiSET pass rate, and Megan did these figures. They run through through February here. We're almost at the end of February. Our overall pass rate, HiSET pass rate, is 69.41 as a state, 69.41. Our task pass rate a year ago during the same period was 79.02%. And the biggest difference is what Denise focused on. She focused on writing and math. And writing really has the biggest spread here, if you will, from task to HiSET. Our task writing was 92.22%. As of last week, our writing was 76.81%. So that is about a 15% difference, percentage point difference in pass rates. Obviously, math continues to be the lowest pass rate with high set at 73%. As I mentioned, writing is at 76%. Reading is at 77%. Social studies and science are the highest. Social studies is at 81%, and science is at 86%. So I really applaud Denise. She did a fantastic job sort of giving everyone some good tips there. And I know as we become more accustomed and we get some of the materials that Denise mentioned into our programs, our pass rates will go up. I'd like to sort of in conclusion share with you a story because as I always say, it's not about numbers, it's not about percentages, it's about students and the impact that you have on our student lives. And if you were not able to attend the Day at the State House that IAACE sponsored on January 24th, we got to hear 3 students' essays as part of the essay contest. And I just want to share a few lines from Alice Kerrigan of Scottsburg. She's was with the River Valley Resources Program in Southern Indiana. And I think she had some really good words for all of us to consider. She wrote, "As a student at River Valley Resources, and as a child, I attended school only up to the 6th grade. Later, I found myself married and having children in my 20s and 30s. I had jobs off and on working in various roles: factory worker, restaurant employee, home health aide, office clerk, and teacher's aide. After losing both my parents in 2020, my mother to a car accident, my father to cancer, I realized how short life is and that none of us are promised a tomorrow. It's all on me, and I can't let my kids or myself down," she realized. "Instead of letting it keep me down, I chose to push forward every day. The only way to take care of myself and my family was to get a better job. After I passed my HSE test, the first people I wanted to tell besides my children were my parents. I know they would be so proud of me." Success to me isn't about money. Success is about taking care of those we love. Success is moving forward in the middle of adversity. Success is trying and never giving up on yourself. Success is when you make others happy or inspired. Success is helping others. Success is getting back up no matter how many times you are down. Success is the amazing feeling knowing your loved ones around you are proud of you. Success is being proud of yourself. I am thankful for my children, my friends, and my teachers who believed in me and never gave up on me. As PDFs, you have made truly Indiana adult education a national leader, and you have given your students the gift of success. Continue the good job. Let's finish out the year strong. And here at the state office, we thank you. Amy? Amy, no one can hear you.
We can't hear you, Amy.
It's
I'm so sorry.
there you go.
I'm working from my one little screen because I'm at home today, and usually I have multiple screens so I can have everything open at one time. So I apologize. Just to wrap things up, I wanted to give you the date in advance. We're hoping to have the next PDF meeting on March 25th, same time. So I'll kind of mark that on your calendars for a future reference. And unless anybody has anything at this point they'd like to add, we'll call it a wrap for the day so that everybody that has other meetings for today can take a few minutes break before they jump in on the next one. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add before we end? Okay, well, that is it for today. I hope to get the slide deck and the recording out to you the first of next week. And be sure to email Laura if you did not receive the survey, and be sure to email me if you were not on the original invite. And thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.